Hello and welcome to RF Middle East, and I'm today in conversation with Lieutenant General Raj Shukla, who was the Army commander and now with a member of the Union Public Service Commission. He writes regularly on strategic matters, and he has had a significant influence on a generation of Indian Army personnel on how to think about warfare and how to think about the strategic consequences of the use of force and Indian foreign policy. So, sir, welcome to RF Middle East, and thanks for joining us for this on this conversation. We would like to touch upon on certain aspects of strategy and warfare, if you allow us. Let me begin by asking you just a very broad question on how the world looks at the moment. We have a number of wars raging. We have had, of course, the Ukraine conflict, Ukraine war. The wars in the Middle East and many smaller wars going around the world. But I think if you look at the two big ones, particularly the Ukraine war, what does the future of warfare look to you? What are some of the bigger trends that we are witnessing? Specifically, what does it mean for India and for India's war preparedness, and as we look at our own strategic challenges?
Yeah, so 2 points, Harsh. One is, as I think we were talking inside, I think in geopolitics, the biggest swivel has been this shift from economics to national security, as a consequence of which you are seeing missiles and drones flying over the skies of Europe, West Asia, thankfully not Asia so far. And just look at, I think, an interrelated aspect. We look at the national security component of MAGA, what they are saying. They are talking about, they describe their own military, $950 billion, 11 aircraft carriers, 800 bases, 80 countries, and they are calling it an opera of failing deterrence which needs repair. Honest talk. And they are saying get mission readiness back, lethality back, and the warrior ethos back if you have to win wars. So one is the swivel and one is, the bloat in the militaries which has to be right-sized or removed. And what we in India should be really grateful is that we have this great peace dividend. We must use this time to build up deterrence. And the manner in which we can build deterrence is to see the lessons which are apparent from Ukraine. So let me say, what are the most visible lessons? And now we are talking of war fighting, character of war. So the strange part about Ukraine is that you're seeing three domains coexist in simultaneity. So you have World War I trench warfare, which is not gone. 12 lakh casualties on both sides, dead and injured, 7 lakh Russians, about 5 lakh Ukrainians. Gruesome trench warfare. You just see how slowly the front lines are moving. So Advika fell in February 24. It's been a year, just 40 kilometers. So if you zoom into the conflict, there are marginal gains. If you zoom out, it is static because it is so bloody. The second aspect is that the instruments of the Cold War, artillery, armor, fighters, they still matter, but they are severely challenged. And they are challenged by the third dimension, which is the technological tsunami, which is, spreading and taking warfare to a new high. I'll give you an example. So pre-Ukraine, dronery as a science or as an instrument of war fighting didn't exist. The Ukrainians have been pushed by the war to discover the benefits of dronery and see what's happening. 80% of Russian casualties in men and equipment have come not from the infantry, not from the armor. I'm an artilleryman, not from the artillery, but from drones. And drones because, right from cutting edge AI to precision, space, everything in that small instrument. And drones are penetrating your trenches, they are penetrating your tank turrets, and they are being used for strategic air power. The most amazing thing, which really amazes me and should be a lesson for all of us. So when the conflict begins, you have the Russians, who are very good in EW and all, jamming and completely paralyzing the cyber grid. When the Ukrainians are paralyzed, not NASA, not Boeing, not Lockheed. Who comes to their rescue? Elon Musk. Startup. Agile startup. And look what he does. The Russians had also jammed the signals from, the higher and medium level satellites. So the HIMARS systems had stopped working after a while. Javelins had become inaccurate. What restores this accuracy? Starlinks. And then the most amazing thing, a country without a navy, crude drones with Starlinks have knocked out the formidable Black Sea fleet out of Sevastopol. And the same drones now have created such a net. If you would have noticed, air power is absent. Absolutely absent. Amazing. We couldn't have thought of 10 years back armor mech movement without air power. Now you see what's happening. These Ukrainians have created a zone, 20-kilometer zone. So 15 kilometers of surveillance where you pick up everything with persistent surveillance, and 5 kilometers, anything that moves is taken out. Now there may be some exaggeration in this, but together, bleeding edge technologies, what they have done to legacy instruments, and what they are doing to trench warfare.
So you have this very interesting dynamic, this whole First World War kind of approach to warfare, plus the technological revolution and how it is shaping the battle.
So if I may make just one point, in our case, what conclusions did we draw?
I was coming to that, yeah.
We said technology downsize. I'm afraid you can't do that. These are the realities. General Bipin Rawat, may his soul rest in peace, he used to tell us, you are bloated, bring it down. Look, 12 lakhs now. I mean, for good intent. And one more point. He would say, what are you doing with 40i? We couldn't answer 40i. Ukraine tells you 90i of ammunition, but precision. And let me give you one quick example. What the Americans are doing in Taiwan, they have taken all their legacy ammunitions, old 1960s, 1970s, are just putting precision instruments and making them precise, quick sync. We have to do all this in our context. Dumb munitions are of no use. And so there's so many challenges and lessons coming out of Ukraine. Sorry.
So just in terms of, taking that forward, what is it that Indian military can do now? Because one of the things that I think would be in great demand would be intellectual agility, right? Because the battlefields are different and they are evolving very rapidly. And then as we have been discussing, there is a combination of both maneuver warfare as well as technological advancement that is being brought to bear on the battlefield. So as a 21st century military, what is it that India should be doing? We know that we have had a spate of defense reforms that we have done, including the CDS. We have been talking about theatre commands for a while. How do we ensure that not only our structures are in place, but also we have our officers are able to make the right decisions at the right time, because that would mean that they have the intellectual agility to make those decisions in real time almost. So where is that conversation going from a broader national security point of view?
Yeah, so the two challenges we have, one is to adjust dramatically to the changes in the character report. That's not easy for a conservative organization like the military to make all these changes. And the second challenge is China. I mean, look at China. The military component of the power differential is $450 billion annually. I mean, let's not talk of R&D, that's another $600 billion. And what we must concede is that the Chinese have innovated greatly in the last 10, 15 years. So one is Ukraine and the second is China. Now, with the Chinese, what we really need to do, we need to innovate. The differential cannot be matched unless we innovate with technologies, and that is now a cultural challenge. Our procurement system, the way we look at stuff, everything was created for monopsony markets. One buyer in military, one seller, HAL, no freedom, no choices, no competition. That has to change to the demands of a technology, innovation market. Now, that is also not easy. So I'll give you an example. Today, drones are fired, say, on Friday, and you see it's missing the target. So you decide that the rocket motor has to be some changes. You do the design changes, and I'm just saying, anecdotally. So Saturday, Sunday ko aapne changes kiye, and Monday with additive printing, it is delivered back to the fleets and formations. In Delhi, you have this DPP business. So the broader point is that the innovation cannot take place at the rate of regulation. We have to deregulate greatly. culturally, we have to see that L1 will not work. This whole business of GFR and all is a pack of nonsense. Because unless you get it out of the way, and I'm not making, an insinuation against everybody, the way you do stuff has changed. The military has to see it, and our PSUs, DRDO have to see this. They have to change from these PSU kind of enterprises to these innovation enterprises. I mean, the reality is that the guy who's delivering in Ukraine, as I said, is not Boeing, not Lockheed, not NASA, but Elon Musk. Let's look at space. All the military capacities in Ukraine have come from the low Earth orbit. We are absent in the low Earth orbit. We are chasing the mirage of 4A, 4B wrongly because NASA and ISRO are designed for space exploration, not for combat capacities. Now we have to make all these conceptual changes which are flowing out of here. Apart from that, I think we have three things which really, are acquiring very grim proportions. One is stealth-based offensive air power. Look what Israel did. On the night of 26th October, the Iranians have 4 S-300s. 3 are knocked out. Iran is naked. It knows it's naked. And that's why Trump is threatening them with the B-2 bombers and all that. With opposite us, we have got the most sophisticated engine of long-range precision, the PLA rocket force. We have to look at our own AD topology and stealth-based offensive. We have S-300s, but see what happened to the S-300s. So what protected the Israelis was Iron Dome, THAAD, Aegis, a whole AD topology. So strategically, AD topology, stealth-based offensive air power, and a drone missile force. Now, if you just see how the stuff has panned out, a drone missile force and strategic air power are not either or options. Both complement each other. In our case, while we have offensive air power, which is being challenged, and look at how dramatically the environment is changing. If J-35s are being given to the Pakis, which means 5th generation, and our AMCA is 15, 20 years away, we are losing one of the great advantages we had with Pakistan, air power. The Chinese are talking of J-36, which is going to be rolled out by 2030 for the first time in history before the Americans. When Trump came, he signed that F-47, but that gets rolled out in 2036. And what is 6th generation? So today you will have the J-36 aircraft whose combat radius is all of India, South Asia, Guam, all the way to Hawaii. And what will lead the J-36 is what they call collaborative air system, which is nothing but millions of drones, swarm drones. So now you have to get, Elon Musk is right. Some of these, make some enemies in the Air Force, but when he says that, say, hypothetically in a dogfight, piloted platforms versus autonomous platforms, the pilot is a liability. There's no reflection on the Air Force. This is how science has changed. So look at all these issues also, apart from Ukraine, in the conventional domain, stealth-enabled defensive air power, a drone missile force, AD topology. The challenges are there for you to see. And I constantly make this point that, fortunately or unfortunately, we are in the big league now. We are the 5th largest, 3rd largest economy. So in this fight between a challenged hegemon and a risen challenger, this aspiring Vishwabandhu needs to deepen its game in national security in terms of sophistication. So we have to innovate, look ahead. National security challenges are there for you to see.
So finally, to conclude on something that we have been discussing about, China, if we can just look at, we are seeing a budding rapprochement between India and China. There's some at the top level, some movement on certain issues, but militarily, it won't involve any climbing down because, of course, the capacity differential, as you've pointed out, is far too huge to be bridged in the short distance. And how do you establish deterrence on the ground with the Chinese should be a main motive for both, I think, India and to a certain extent China also, if the stability is to be preserved. So for that, what are the immediate steps that India needs to take?
So in my view, two things, Harsh, and this should be open to larger debate, but my view, We are in a position today, now that we have rebalanced with the Chinese, so in terms of, say, armor, artillery, numbers, reserves, mechanized forces, it's pretty good. And let me also say to our credit that from Galwan onwards, we have stood up to the Chinese many times and they know it. So deterrence along the LAC now, to make it fail-proof, all that we need is a few technologies, which we spoke of. Persistent surveillance, Starlinks kind of stuff, and dronery. And the good thing is that with IDEX, many of these startups have matured. So Dhruv, Aerospace, New Space, Third Eye Tech, you have these startups. Now, the third thing, which I missed, we have these startups, and in the light of, the debate with Mr. Goel, in the defense space, all that these startups need is no mehrbani, no dose, just orders, orders, and orders. If you give them those orders, and let me see, why we need to step up our game everywhere. Look what the Chinese do. How do they hold startups? When a startup starts, the military gives the startups orders. It holds his hand to commercial viability. If necessary, it holds his hand to destroy adversary competition. यहाँ वो बेचारे startup को शुरू में बोलते हैं L1. Cannot compete, he has to be handheld. If we hold their hands in the long term, these have to be your national champions, Boeing, Lockheed. So it cannot be by this L1 and all that kind of, that whole approach. But if we do this and take these technologies, you have fail-proof deterrence. Now the larger China challenge, in my view today, is let's accept the reality and let's say détente. Détente means what? Peace, not in an innocent kind of way. We know the threat, but we are playing for time. You have to play for time to build your larger capacities. I think that is the real solution. It stares us in the face. But it is not unwise, because we are ensuring that nothing happens along the LAC, and that we can ensure. And the larger relationship, we have to invest in all kinds of dimensions. And this will give you one example why the Chinese challenge is so real and we have to step up our game. I'm told every 10 years, their Politburo, no less, looks at one technology. So 10 years back, they took batteries. Agar India mein aap bolo batteries, wo bolenge yaar pagal ho gaya, kya baat kar rahe hai? Look what they do. With batteries, they build 450 courses across the university system. Battery alkaline, battery A, battery metallurgy. Create a university in central China on batteries. Link it with the PLA Academy of Military Sciences. Now, does it surprise you that BYD has pushed Volkswagen out of the car market? And the same batteries go into your nuclear submarines, into your civil-military fusion in this sense. So the challenges are huge, and our big misfortune is that China is not tucked away in Latin America. It's right here. So you have to be with this.
And I think the challenge is also a whole of nation or whole of society approach to this question. Thank you, Gen Shukla, for taking time for laying out.
And I must say, this office of yours is hugely imposing. And
thank you, and thank you for being one of the early visitors to this office. And
thanks a lot.
Ensuring that this message goes out, that our office, also along with our intellectual products, is equally exciting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.